Hey, everybody, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time to We Believe in Comics, our Friday night workshops at the Sequential Artists Workshop. I'm Michael, guest hosting for Tom, who is en route to the Small Press Expo. And there we go. Yeah, SAW is a 501c3 nonprofit with online courses. You can see all of our short and long-term courses at learn.sawcomics.org. Coming soon, our fall courses, we've got graphic medicine, a 3-month deep dive with Maureen Burdock. We have next time at Friday Night Comics, write a 1-page comic with the rhythm of ancient Chinese poetry. Nature Comics with Sarah Maloney, a 4-week online class if you're in the Gainesville area. No, this is also still online. Graphic medicine 3-month deep dive. Didn't I already say that? I don't know. Tom just sends me these slides and I read off them with Maureen Murdoch. It's a limited class size 3-month intensive. Check that out. And then if you are in the Gainesville area, a 5-day workshop, week-long workshop in Florida with Carly Schuster, work in any medium. And you can find these courses and more at learn.sawcomics.org. Also, check out our little comics community showcase place, Seesaw Comics. Check out what everybody's doing, including that little The Pursuit of Unhappiness. That's me, but not to make this a self-promoting thing. And also, we've been doing the PDFs, posting the PDFs, I think, to Seesaw of what you do here at Friday Night Comics. Yeah, the weekly PDFs. I'll be sending instructions in the chat throughout this workshop. Also, we survive from tuitions and donations from participants like you. If you donated today, thank you. That helps pay the artists, the guest artists who donate their time to take us on these amazing exercises. You can support SAW at PayPal or Patreon, or consider becoming a sustaining member and helping SAW offer these amazing courses with amazing teachers and also scholarships to artists who need a little help. Don't forget to share what you do tonight on social media with the hashtag Friday Night Comics or at Comics Workshop. Join us for free anytime at the mothership site, members.sawcomics.org. Please, no inappropriate speech or imagery. That means me too. No trolling or hate speech or explicit, etc. Thank you. Keep it PG-13. You can draw anything you want, but when it comes to sharing, share the PG-13 stuff. And enjoy, although that always seems like an order to me and it makes me uncomfortable because sometimes I enjoy being unhappy. But anyway, tonight, not Sarah Firth. I forgot to change the name. Marek Bennett, please ignore that. Mini comics templates with Marek Bennett. This should be a lot of fun. And okay, and I got to get this control bar out of the way and stop share and turn it over to Marek. Hey, Marek.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's great to be here and to see Sarah Firth's name and lights on the marquee. All right. And Michael's going to monitor the chat for us. So if you have questions or you want to make comments or you need something explained differently, feel free to jump in and put them there. And Michael will interrupt me and set me back on track. And I'm going to put my website right there in the chat. Good to see everybody here. Thanks for coming out this Friday. My name's Marek. I'm a cartoonist up in New Hampshire, Henniker, New Hampshire, along the Kentucky River. And I'm psyched to make comics with you tonight. That is my goal tonight, to make something that I can then share and that will relax me and relax all of us, and we'll have something new for the end of the week. So if we were in a big room together, I would start by saying, how many people here make comics? And we'd see a bunch of hands raised. And I like to ask, how many people here have never made a comic before? So if you've never made a comic before, let us know in the chat that you're trying it out tonight. And sometimes that just means you're not sure if you've made a comic or not. So my goal for myself is to finish a comic tonight. So we're gonna work kind of fast, but whenever I put a time limit on what we're doing. I want you to, it's not to put any pressure on. We can relax, and that time limit is just there to help us keep moving through the process. And you can always come back and work more at the end. All right,
Mark,
so
is there a way to increase your volume? Because I did notice you were a little soft at first. I just increased the volume on my speaker, but now I'm seeing other people.
okay, well, I can use my classroom voice and shout a little. I usually this mic picks up okay, but sometimes there's a little problem.
There we go. I
So
think
I'll just talk a little louder. I was in a school today, so I got used to speaking loud, and that now I'm like, oh, good, we're on computer, so I can talk quietly. But no, I will talk louder. All right. So a little intro. For a couple minutes, I'll just show you where I'm coming from. I'm gonna put a share screen spell on my camera here, and you should now see my desktop. All right, and so I'm a cartoonist. Like I say, I work primarily in black and white hand-drawn comics. I do a lot of mini comics, but the big project I've been working on the past several years is called The Civil War Diary of Freeman Colby. And this is a comic that it's a graphic novel series, so this is volume 1. It's taught me a lot, and I'm going to share a couple lessons tonight with a hands-on exercise that we can do together. And I'll show you what this has taught me. The way I present this project is it is a nonfiction, primary source-based graphic novel. So at the back, there is a page that has a page out of Freeman Colby's actual diary. Freeman Colby is an actual historical person. He was a school teacher in Henniker, New Hampshire at the start of the Civil War, about 21 years old. And he volunteered. He actually quit his teaching job and volunteered to join the army. And there's a whole story to that. But he ended up writing down his adventures in the Civil War, and they sat on a shelf for years and years, almost a century, I think, until I, as a cartoonist, found them and decided I could take those diaries and actually interpret them into comics. So what that looks like, actually, let me share this a little differently. I'm going to screen share, not just that window, but my whole screen. Okay. And now if I pull up this image, can you see the diary of Freeman E. Colby? Let me know if you can. Yes. So this is what the diary looked like. And the first lesson of this diary was that when I went to draw it, the diary didn't really help me know what anything looked like. I just had the text. So when he says, when the war broke out, I was at home helping my father with the work of the farm, he doesn't describe the farm. He doesn't describe how he got the news of the Civil War starting in 1861. So my approach has been, I'm going to draw as simply as possible. I'm going to draw as little as possible because I don't want to introduce new details into this. So that's the first lesson that I want to practice tonight. Well, we can draw as simply as possible and draw as little as possible to get to the heart of the story. And my whole practice is I put little boxes on the page, I write the words into them, and then I draw a little picture to go with it. And because I'm drawing as simply as possible, I tend to draw stick figures or super simple cartoons. And from there, it can expand out into a bigger story. So that's my approach tonight with everything I'm going to draw, everything I'm going to do. We'll tell a little story. I'll walk you through a template to give that story some shape. And the art style you use whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm going to encourage everybody to try drawing as simply as possible to get just the key ideas down into that. The other thing that I noticed, if I call up my camera now, all right, if I call up my camera, the other thing I noticed was that I was drawing those pages on full-size paper, and I use a grid so that some pages have, for instance, 6 panels, some pages have 9 panels. It all depends on what the text breaks down into. That's how I decide how many panels there are and what shape they are, but they're all on a grid. Here's 8 panels and 9 panels, so I can adjust the pages with that. And it was a lot easier to draw each page if I started using a 12 by 12 grid. And then I just printed this out from a word processor. It's just a 12 by 12 table. And then I could lay each page over that, see the lines through it, and trace out the panels and quarters. And that just sped it up so much because I didn't have to measure anything for each page. So as I was doing that, I was doing my mini comics also. And I realized, wow, that really helps to have a shape to the mini comics. So here's an example of the kind of mini comics I do. Some people, this is a blank one. This is an 8-page one-sheet mini. We put out that if you wanted to beforehand, you could set up an 8-page mini and draw on that. I'm not going to assume anybody did that. I'm just going to grab a blank sheet of paper here. And I'm going to show you how you can set up a comic on the blank sheet of paper, and later on you could transfer it. It's going to be the same size and shape. You can later transfer it to your mini comic if you want to make a mini out of it. But I'm also going to use a template. So the simplest template that I have is a little mini template I call the story starter template. And this actually got me thinking about templates when I realized in order to make a story in these books, we can think of the first 2 pages as the start. And for instance, we might show our character in a normal situation. And that could be a 2-page spread or a 1 or 2 separate panels in this book form. Then on the next 2 pages, we'll show the middle of the story. Something unusual or dramatic will happen. And on the next 2 pages, we'll show an end or reactions or results or next steps. And then we have a back page where we can put a couple other pieces on, or maybe we need it for our story still. And that kind of flexible template gave me I could relax and use my imagination to draw each step of the story. And the coolest thing is when I get to the middle, the book will the characters in the book form will have an answer for me. I don't have to think about that now. I'll just start at the start. So the template really helped me relax and lay ideas down on paper. So I think the template that we're going to do tonight is, I set it aside here. Oh, I set it over here. Is called a Journey Comics template. And I think we'll just dive in and get started. And there's a whole story to how I came up with this template and why it is the way it is. But we can save that for later if there's time during the share. We'll just dive in and get started. So in terms of setting up your page, if you have a 1-sheet mini ready to go, then that's great. I'll show you one little trick I do with these whenever I make these books, is I always give myself a little margin around the outside that is a pencil width away from the edge. So it'll just look like this. And of course, it'll be on all 4 sides. So if you have a book set up, that's great. You can go through your pages and give it a little margin. That'll keep your artwork away from the edges and it won't get clipped by folding or copying. If you have not set up a book, here's how I'm going to set up my page. So if you want to get precise proportions, you can fold the paper or you can just draw a line. I'll show you with folding a paper first. I'm just going to fold this page in half one way. Doesn't really matter which way you fold it. And then in half the other way. And then in half the other way again, which I guess is the same as the first way. And when I do that, that's what folds it down to those page sizes. When I open it up, however you folded it, we want to open it up and have 8 boxes on the page, space for 8 panels. If you're not into folding or you're not working on paper, you can just take you're drawn on the wall or something, you can just divide your space into 8 roughly equal panels or boxes, and you can draw right into that. So I'll assume everybody's doing that. And, you know, like I said, these are all flexible. So if you're doing 6 panels or boxes, that's great too. The template can still guide us through a storytelling exercise here. One thing that I'll do here, because it's helpful in the books. Oh, sometimes I bump my camera and it goes to sleep on me. All right. Because it's helpful in the books to have that margin on it, you may want to keep in mind, you can pencil it in or just do it mentally, that you may want a little margin on each of these panels too. And if you keep your most important text and artwork away from those edges, you'll have a slightly smaller page size, but it'll be a little safer, and you keep your options open. For instance, if after we're done, you decide you want to cut out all these pages and tape them into a 1-sheet mini comic so you have a self-publishable mini that you can share with people, this keeps your options open and you can do that. So if you're working digitally, I'll let you figure out how you want to do that. Basically, we just need 8 panels on the page, and then we can use this template, which is an 8-step template. So here I've got my margins on here, and I've got my boxes. Margins optional. So the other thing that I'm going to do with all these pages is I'm going to put a little number in the corner so that I know the order they go in. I find that's really helpful for artists of all ages and when we're setting up the page. And if I'm not sure if I'm going to cut these out and put them in the book somewhere, I might want a page number on them. So I'll just number them in here. I'll start on the upper left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. And right away, I can see there's some differences in doing the 8 panels to a page. That's going to be really different from doing the book, because in the book, I can do 2-page spreads. I can draw right across 2 and 3, and that would be like I could draw. But if I wanted to have a 2-page spread on 4 and 5, 4 is up here and 5 is down here. So I'll have to divide those into 2 separate pages.
Mark, what would those numbers look like if you were going to end up folding it?
If you're doing the book, good question. Oh, I have one of those little template right here. Oh, no, that's a 16-pager. Sorry. If you're doing the book, when you unfold it, there's a couple ways it can lay out, but the key thing is you'd have 1, 2, 3, then you have 4, 5 upside down, 6, 7, and 8. If you're not familiar with these books, let's focus on making the comics.
Okay.
But if you are familiar with these books, you know how that works. I have a video on my site we can send as a follow-up link to that shows how to make these books. So I figured rather than taking our time to make the books together, I'll assume if you're working in the books, good for you, go for it. But if you want to maybe make a book afterwards, then you can draw right onto the page here, and afterwards you can clip everything out and tape it into the book you made. And then that way we'll use most of our time to draw together. But yes, good question. That's a difference in the layout. So if I'm thinking I might want to use it as a book, I'm going to keep number 1 as my front cover. This will be like a title, intro, welcome space. So actually, let's do that. Wherever your panel 1 is, I like to mark off a little space at the top where I will put my title. And I don't want to decide on my title beforehand because I usually do my title last. You can do your title if you have a title, if you know what your comic's going to be called. And I usually sign it either right under the title or down at the bottom of the cover there. So I'll put my name on there. I don't know what the picture is going to be. I have to draw this whole thing and then I'll figure out what that is. And I actually have to show you the Journey Comics template. So now that I have that set up, I basically have the space for the ideas to go into. And what I find kind of hard is like when I get up in the morning and I think, oh, I want to make comics, and there are so many different stories to tell and so many different ways to go. And I need something to kind of give me shape and channel me. So that's where the template comes in. And I've used these. I've used this particular one for a lot of different comics. Sometimes science-based comics, sometimes history comics, sometimes autobio comics, sometimes made-up comics. But here's how the Journey Comics template works. Page 1 is the front cover. Obviously, it won't say Journey Comics template unless you want Journey Comics at the top. It'll have your title up here, and it'll have some cover image, and it'll have your name right on there. So we're ready to go there. On page 2 and 3, I'll show you the whole template. Then we'll come back to my page here, and we'll start filling it. So 2 and 3 are our beforehand and setting out. And I used a little sort of pointed box here because I find it's helpful if I'm going on a journey in my comic. I find it's helpful to go from left to right if you're doing English language comics and keep the action moving from left to right. So as my characters are getting ready or setting out on their journey, this picture is going to go across the page, whatever's going on here, and it'll kind of push the reader into the next page. So this could show the origins of this journey or the reasons for your journey, or your plans or preparation, or the first steps of your journey, or your hopes and goals for the journey, or challenges you're going to meet. This can be a journey. You can make up a story if you want. You could do someplace you went or something you did over the summer, or it could be something that you hope to do someday, an aspirational journey too. So that's page 2 and 3. On page 4 and 5, we're going to show something that happened along the way. Not every step of the way, but just something that we want to be at the heart of the story, because that's really the center of the book. We could show settings, we could show actions, other characters. There might be some surprises, there might be changes, there might be details that we show. 6 and 7 will show arriving, or maybe arriving where you're going, or maybe returning from the journey, or maybe continuing the journey in some way. And then on page 8, maybe some closing thoughts, or maybe sometimes you need to use page 8 for the to be continued page because your journey goes on, right? But let's just tackle these one at a time. So I'll keep this open to page 2, 3. Like I said, I'm going to come back and do the cover last. So I'm going to move into wherever your panels are, panels 2 and 3 here. And if you've set it up like I have, you have a choice. You could actually draw right across those two and still use it in the book, because that's going to be a 2-page spread there. I think what I'll do is I'll keep them as 2 separate boxes so it stays kind of regular here. And like I said before, we need to use time limits because we have a finite time tonight at 7:20 and we're just getting started. So that will give us, well, let's think about this. If we want to be done in 20 minutes, we have 2, 4, 6, and 8 panels to go. So really that's like 3 minutes per panel. So that's like 5 or 6 minutes per 2-page spread, I think, if I'm doing the math right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you want me to just set 3-minute increments
Yeah.
and chime in when, okay.
Yeah, or we can just kind of watch the clock. I'm going to work at my own speed here and I'll kind of talk through. If I'm distracting, feel free to turn off the volume or something for a few minutes. But I find it's helpful to kind of be able to look up and see what somebody else is doing, which we miss when we're not all in the same room together.
Absolutely.
So I'll talk you through the way I'm thinking of it. I'm going to do something we did as a family right at the end of the summer, right after Labor Day. I took a recent trip with my sketchbook, and I was thinking that would be my journey comic, because I do a lot of sketchbooking and moving around and sketching different places. So that's what I'm going to do. So one of the techniques that I'm going to use here, like I said, I'm going to draw as little as possible to get to the heart of the story, so I get a bigger heart of the story in the page. One of the techniques I use is, if I ever get stuck, I just look at this little card I keep over my desk and it tells me what to do. Can I do less? Because sometimes I'm just getting stuck by putting too much detail in. So for instance, I could draw myself as a little stick figure with a sketchbook. And this is going to be the beforehand setting out on a journey. And I'm going to try to show where this character is and what they're thinking. Or if that looks kind of faceless, I like to draw myself as an animal. So I draw myself as a little bunny rabbit. I'll put a little face on that figure. And I'll give him a sketchbook. And there, I've already made a change that kind of brings it to life. I'll make him walking. And I find when I draw something, if I can bring my imagination in at any angle and bring it to life in some unexpected way, that makes me want to draw more. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to shift media here. I'm going to invite you also. Normally, when I'm making comics, I use the pie process. So I tell people, start with pencil. And then when you get all your ideas down in pencil, come in with your favorite inking tool. That's the eye. And when you're done with that, jump in there with if you can find it, eraser, and erase all your pencil lines so everybody thinks you're a genius and that you didn't have to sketch anything. You just laid it down perfectly in ink, right? And that enables us to read it, to ask somebody to read it back to you and make your fixes and edits before you ink. I'm going to break that rule though tonight, since we have 3 minutes per page. And I'm going to invite you just to draw directly in ink. And if we make a mistake, just you can scribble it out, or you can fix it, make it part of the picture. Or if you make a mistake, there's lots of ways to fix mistakes. I'm sure I will have to fix a mistake here. So I'm going to draw directly in ink for the rest of this comic, and it can be imperfect. It's just getting ideas down. There I am walking along. So I need to give some setting details too. look at that. It just turned into a 2-page spread after all. So people often think artists, get ideas and then put them down on paper or canvas or whatever. And I like to remind, when I work with school groups especially, I like to remind them that most of the time I'm putting things down and getting ideas from the act of drawing. That's why I draw stuff.
That was the 3-minute timer for panel 1.
Great. I'll see I'm behind already. I'll make up for it in the next page. So
No,
if,
it was
thank you, Michael, for keeping an eye on the time.
it
So
was also, I just want to say, fascinating to watch you start with the stick figure and then transform it into something so specific.
oh yeah. Well, this is my stick figure bunny. Sometimes when I draw myself as a bunny close up, or I need to have more depth or something, I'll do thicker bubble letter arms and legs. But when it's far away, or when I have 3 minutes per panel, I will definitely do stick figures, and it simplifies it. And if you see this as a rabbit walking with something in their hands, that's good enough for me. I don't want to get into what kind of shoes are they wearing, or how do the shadows fall behind them, just so.
And a quick question from Nikki.
Yeah,
So what Marek is demonstrating is not the folded book. If you've already made it the book, the book will guide you about the order, right? This is not going to fold correctly.
right.
Hmm.
Right. I thought it would be easier. I don't trust I didn't trust that everybody would show up with a perfectly ready book ready to go. So
Right.
if I were drawing into a blank book right now, there's 2 ways to do it. I could be just drawing into it in book mode, right? On 2 and 3 right now. We're coming up to the end of 3 minutes for 3. Or if you're drawing directly in ink, you might want to open it up and be drawing so the ink doesn't bleed through. Still drawing on 2 and 3, it would be down here on the page. And as you came to page 4 and 5, you'd flip it around and do your 4 and 5 in there. But that I thought this was more easy to understand because it's right there in front of us. And for those of us who did not come with a book ready to go, it would take 20 or 30 minutes to set up the books. And then we'd be like, well, that's it for tonight. See you later, folks. And I think it's better to be drawing together than folding books together. We'll post the video to the book folding directions um, somewhere, or once I catch up, I'll put it in the
The
chat.
Judith is also confused. The order is only wrong if you try to fold this into the book.
Right. This is going to work. This I can pin to the wall and people can read it as a poster. Yeah, I would not try to fold this into a book.
And
But
if you wanted to make it into a book, you could cut it up and put it into the book, right?
yep, cut each of these pages out and tape it onto the pages of the book as numbered in the book.
And if you already folded the book and you're drawing in the book, then you're good.
Then ignore me. Maybe it would help if I folded it. I'm trying to keep things less confusing, but I end up making them more confusing. It's a nice
No,
a nice illustration of
that's the
what
way
I
it
do
always
with my
works.
art. All right, so I'm using pictures and words together just to try to get the reader to see what I want them to see and what's important in my story. And I'm thinking maybe I'll have the rabbit at 2 different moments, because I was thinking of this as 2 pages. So I'm going to try to capture, like I said, I'm not going to try to do all the details possible. I'm not doing fine art. It's not a gigantic epic landscape. It is, how can I draw as little as possible so or I think you'll know what's in front of us here, and go from there. And one of the things I like to do when I'm working with other artists in a classroom or something, if I'm ever unsure if they're going to be able to see what I'm drawing, I can turn to my neighbor and say, "Hey, can you?" I don't tell them what it is. I say, "Can you read this back to me? Can you tell me what you see here?" And then if they see what I want them to see, then that's great. And if they don't, they might say like, "Why doesn't the rabbit have a face?" And I know it's because I want the rabbit to turn and face the ocean, but maybe I'm trying to make it too complicated. So, simplest fix would be maybe put a face on the rabbit, but I kind of want them looking away from us. So I might say, like, how would you see it as they're looking away from us? And they might be able to give me some advice. Your readers often can help you figure out that tough stuff. Now, I just had this idea that I wanted to add the flowers in here, but I know I'm thinking of my time. And if I spend the next 5 or 6 minutes drawing flowers, I'm not going to get to all 8 pages or boxes. Maybe I shouldn't refer to these as pages if they're not pages of my book here yet. So I'm going to leave off with the flowers. I can come back at the end and add them in. But I think what I'm going to do is start to move into my 4 and 5, which is the next part. I have set my rabbit off on a journey. So we have beforehand and setting out. We have set off on our journey, taken the first steps. I guess that's where my story went to. So now I'm going to turn my attention to the next part of this template, the Journey Comics template, getting into the middle of the book. And this is starting to be along the way. I should say, if at any step of making your comic, your imagination takes it in a different way, remember the template is just a suggestion. It's just saying, here's one option for telling the story. Here's how we can keep it moving. So if I'm doing along the way, maybe I'll show what rabbit finds, or maybe there's a surprise or a change, a shift in the story that makes it a story. So that's going to be my 4, and maybe the result of that shift will be my 5. Whatever gets your imagination going here. I didn't think I was going to use panel borders here, but I feel like it looks clearer on the screen. So now that I'm drawing it with you guys like this.
Marek McHale is wondering if the journey template is on your site.
Yes. And that's something I'll put in towards the end, Michaela. I have a little archive of templates on my site, and you'll see a bunch of templates out there. And if there's time at the end, I'll show you the template I'm working on after my school visit today, because I got an idea today from the school visit I made. So that'll be posted soon. I just found my rabbit has a problem here.
I identify with your rabbit.
I'm going to try something here I don't usually do. The two-faced rabbit. Now I have to test it out on a reader, and if readers say, "Oh no, the rabbit is mutating and splitting," then I can can that and fix it. But I kind of like the idea maybe of since I showed 2 rabbits in the same scene here, maybe I can show 2 faces on the same rabbit here and just play with time a little more. I love it when our comics can be an experiment and a kind of a conversation with the readers. And sometimes you got to try things that don't really work to find out what does work. So this is another lesson I learned from doing my historical comics work is most of the time I just need to get something down on paper. It doesn't have to be the final version. I'm already doubting this page, but the time limit again jumps in and says, don't worry about that. We're moving on to the next page because I don't know if I'm keeping up or if Michael is now drawing so much. You might, how are we doing on time, Michael?
Well, I haven't been really, we have like 59 more seconds on that panel.
Okay. Oh, you have been watching. It's a good sign when you lose track of time. When you're working on something and the time just flies by and whoa, how did an hour go by? Then you know you were in that project. But again, the time limit, not to stress me out, is it's a way to push myself into the next step. And I can always come back and redraw that.
So I'm going to I'm going to start a new 3 minutes for
Okay.
panel 5.
Yeah, I'm moving into 5. That means we have 3, 6, 9, 12 after that. We stick to our timer. One skill that I find really helps when I'm working with school groups, especially because we'll have like 45-minute class, got to get something done in 45 minutes. It can be helpful to say, what if you just put a little something on every page? And then if there's extra time, go back and fill in the blank spaces a little more, like I'm doing with my flowers. I want more flowers here, but I'll do them later if there's time.
So are you implying that even at the stage of your creative career, the details still kind of sing to you like sirens to muck you up? Do you have to struggle against
Oh my
the
gosh, yeah.
details?
That's why I keep that card by my desk, because I get so into the details, or you get into like, oh, I'm drawing flowers. I want to make it really cool, and oh, I want to do a perspective here, or I want to add this or that in.
Yeah,
And if I have 3 minutes per panel, that's what keeps me clear. That's what keeps me from doing too much on the page.
right.
That's why I went to stick figures with the Freeman Colby project, because I was drawing lots of different cartoon styles. But when I do stick figures, I found I couldn't do overlaps. I had to put things side by side. I couldn't do complicated landscapes. I had to really strip it down to like a two-dimensional. I had to flatten everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And then by doing that, it made me clean up my panels. And then I
Interesting.
started introducing details and perspective back into it. But it's hard. People think simple is easy, but simple can be really hard if you're really trying to get to the heart of the story and show something. If I showed this picture to, I don't know, a kindergarten group, they might wonder why the rabbit's underwater. But I'm actually, of course, I would hope older readers would say, oh, the rabbit's walking by the side of the ocean. If I'm drawing it for really young readers, I might put the water at the bottom and rabbit at the top, just to be clear with that.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's cool too. If I showed them this and they thought, why is rabbit underwater? I could quickly redraw that. I'll show you how I do that too, just in case. Since I invited everybody into this crazy plan of just drawing in ink tonight, so if I need to redraw a whole page, or let's say to start with, if I want to replace Rabbit's face here, I can just go with a piece of scrap paper. This one has some spots on it. Piece of scrap paper, I can lay it over that face, and I can trace the face I want onto there. And with scissors and a glue stick, lay it right over there, and you'd never know in the final comic. You'd never know
Mhm.
it's there. I just patch right over. And that to me is a lot faster and clearer than erasing pencil a bunch of times and trying to get it right, because the ink makes me commit. I have to just commit and then work with what's on the page. And that's the only way I can get my comics done sometimes. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just have to get something down.
That was the end of 3 minutes, but it's not fair because I hijacked you with a question.
No, I have to plan for that. So I'm going to just try to catch up. See, that's telling me, there's a lot going on here, but I need to keep it a little simpler. So I'm going to maybe that pushes my story along. So I'm going to quickly do rabbit here and give him a slightly different
Wow.
setting. And hopefully, if I don't spend a lot of time drawing the setting, whoops, I need like a railing here.
Nice.
Okay. Hopefully, just by keeping that setting simple like that and not getting into the shading or anything else, that keeps it clean, keeps it easier to read, if not easier to draw. And I'll jump right into 6 because I think my time is up for 5. So I'm moving into page 6. Let's check our template again. So we did beforehand and setting out, or in my case, I went with first steps. Then 4 and 5 were along the way. So I found the plot thickened a little and my character encountered a challenge. And hopefully I haven't tested this out on readers yet, but if I ask a reader to say, what's Rabbit doing there? Hopefully they can tell me what's what's going on. And actually that also brings Rabbit into the next couple pages. So let's check out 6 and 7. Panels 6 and 7. All right, that's arriving or returning or continuing. Maybe there's a change that's happened from panel 2 and 3. Maybe there's a lesson learned. Maybe there's a new idea here. Maybe something's been gained or lost. Maybe you have no idea and we just want to just throw Rabbit to whatever happens in 6 and 7. Again, I could do a 2-panel spread, but maybe I think I'll keep this as 2 separate pages, 2 separate panels. Again, if you're drawing right into a book, you can tell that you're getting to the end because you can see there's just one more page on the back cover, and we left some time too to finish the front cover. If I'm doing it in a book, by the way, I usually just erase the page numbers because as the reader flips through the book, they won't get confused. I just, and it's only 8 pages, so I never need page numbers on that book. On this, I put the page numbers on in case I end up cutting this out and taping it into the book, because if I can get confused, I will get confused. And if I can be clear to myself, it'll save me a little confusion later. All right. So the time limit's really keeping me honest and clean here, because I am not doing lots of shading and details here. I'm moving the story right along. I just have to try to capture where, since I'm doing a story that I lived through, and it's like, it's not a story yet, I guess, until I finish it, but I'm doing something that is autobiographical. The decisions I have to make are not what should happen next, but what's the part I want to show next. So I'm not sure if this is the next part or not, but I guess it becomes the next part when I make it. Oh, this is kind of cool, especially with the time limit. I think this is a panel that's going to be kind of wordless. I don't have to like narrate what's going on. Maybe it's like a pause. Maybe there's like a little sound effect. And sometimes that by leaving a little space in these panels, it helps me keep up with our crazily careening time limit here. But it also like helps the reader look at the panel and try to imagine their own story. So that moves me right into the next panel here.
Yeah, now you're way ahead of the clock.
Oh, great. It's all about just averages. If you say three minutes per page and you take 6 minutes on one page and 1 minute on each of the next pages, you're still ahead, I guess. But those 1 minute pages might be a little crazily fast. The reason I think that way is when I do my books, the books they can be 400 or 500 pages, and it's
Yeah.
all self-published. And I just have to, I'm the only one who's going to be cracking the whip, and my patrons, I guess, and people waiting for the book to come out. But I find if I can draw a page a day and just keep going forward with that, it takes a little over a year, well, more like 2 or 3 years to do a book. But if I can do 2 or 3 pages on a day average, then it gets done a lot faster. Clearly, I mean, because I'm doing more pages per day. But I just think of that in terms of averages. I keep a little chart and I try to keep it up to 1 or 2 pages a day. And just keep it, they don't even have to be good pages or finished pages. They just have to be something that could be a placeholder. And that keeps it moving forward every day.
Wow.
Now this is tricky. I'm not sure how to cartoon this part. I'm going to try it and then I can test it out on Michael maybe.
Ooh. Judith, the template um,
You want to see
is
the template?
on Marek's site, and I just put the URL into chat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this template and a bunch of other templates. So we are on 6 and 7. This is the point in the story where in our journey, we have set out, we have encountered something or shown something along the way. Something's changed the story. And now there's a sense of arriving or returning or continuing. And if it seems like that could go in any direction, that's because that's how the journey is, right? That you're, if you want your story to bring your character back to the beginning point, then this is a returning part of the story. If you're doing an epic multi-issue series, then this is maybe a continuing or uh, or upping the ante a little bit and pushing the reader into the next one.
Mm.
It's really satisfying in this template, at least. It's really satisfying if there's some change or there's some lesson or some breakthrough, and then you get to the last page and you feel like you've moved through with the character on a journey somewhere.
Yeah, seven. So what I'm seeing, Marek, is Rabbit is hearing overlapping voices.
Yeah, good. Now I think just to seal the deal, I think I'm gonna show I think I'm gonna have Rabbit use words again to show the lesson here.
Well, what does your template say, page 8? You just showed it. Could you show it
Yep.
again real quick?
Yep, page
The
6 and
final
7,
page.
just as a
No,
suggestion.
no,
Sense
no,
of
I mean 8.
arriving, sense of returning or continuing. Maybe there's a change now. You know, there I have another template that is the hero's journey story archetype,
Mhm.
right? And that has a very clear return and certain things have to happen and in certain order for it to be the hero's journey. But this is just a journey. Might be a hero, might not. So I want to seal the deal with like something Rabbit discovered in walking around and coming back. Um,
So what do you have in your guide on 8? What does,
on 8, I think I'm going to show, I think I want to change this up a little. So I think, and this is just to keep up with my time limit. I'm going to show it maybe from a different point of view.
um,
Like I said, this might work or it might not. So that's okay. It's still a worthwhile exercise to draw with you guys, to relax tonight, to make something together, and to go through this process. And if I like the results and I want to share it with people, great. If I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, I've still learned a whole bunch by every little decision we've made here. And when I share it with a reader and get feedback, like Michael just gave me feedback over this, on what you see here, then I've learned a little bit about how my readers perceive my artwork. And next time I make these decisions, I'll take that into account a little more. Oh, you know what? I'm going to change my game plan again because I'm reading back over this now. And I'm going to give Rabbit some words here just to make sure that when test reader or Michael or whoever is looking at this sees it, they get the precise sense that I'm learning this character feels here.
you just raised the stakes, didn't you?
Yes. Oh, so that wasn't there for you before I put that in there.
No, it was because
Okay.
I'm projecting my life into Rabbit's story.
Oh, good.
Debbie is asking to actually see page 8 of the template
Oh,
because
yes.
you were showing us 6 and 7.
So sometimes I think of this as the bonus page. So moving into page 8 or panel 8, if you're doing the whole sheet, this is a place for, sometimes you need to use this for your story. Sometimes you need that extra space. But if you wrapped up your story on 6 and 7, you can do closing thoughts, epilogue, sources, details, note to reader. Sometimes I'm often doing all ages comics in schools, and sometimes somebody's like, I don't know if this story is quite all ages. So I love it when students put, age ratings or notes to reader or something like that onto page 8. I'm going to use, oh, look at that. I'm on page 8. I was thinking of this as 6 and 7, but I'm just so into the story. My page 8 has to be part of my story here. And then in a minute or two, I'm going to jump up to the cover, do a quick cover, and we'll be ready. Let's give ourselves 3 minutes to finish this. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you're unsure that something will be understandable, my rule of thumb is it's better to like write a moral or write a label or just write something in, to write the ocean across the water might be a little heavy-handed. But sometimes that's what it takes, just when we have a strict time limit and we're trying to get something down that people can understand, it's better to be a little too clear than a little too unclear. I'm jumping up to my panel 1 or cover or whatever it ends up being in the book. I still don't have a title. Oh, I just came up with a title. What was it? Oh, I'm going to surprise you with the title. So all I can think of, I'm just going with my first thought here, and I just had rabbit with a sketchbook. So I'm just going to draw them onto the cover as a quick image. And I'll do my name. So like I said, I know this for some of us, this is a comfortable speed to work at. For some of us, this is probably super fast, 3 minutes per panel. But if you're not done or you want to go back and fix something, I'm not sure I'm happy with the two-faced rabbit there. So I might go back and change that. That's totally allowed. This is not an official 24-hour comic or something where you can't change it after the time period.
Oh, wow.
Got my title just as I looked at the cover and said, what can fit there and what needs to go there?
I totally see the value of leaving the title for the last,
Yeah.
especially if you discover things along the way.
Right. Yeah, that's my goal with all of these. The template's just a way to kind of unlock that sense of, I don't know what to draw. The template just says, look, you have 3 minutes. Just draw a rabbit walking along the seashore or something. And if you're thinking, but I don't know where they're going, the template says, don't worry about that. Just make it happen here. And I got this for you. I'll help you when we get to the next page or the next panel. Um, and so there it is. I think we're pretty much on time.
Yeah. Perfect. It's perfect. I love that there's still nothing on the rabbit's page. Uh, that's
Oh,
wonderful. I love it.
oh, I'm glad you said that because I was about to say like maybe I should draw a symbol of a heart or something, but I like that it ends with a blank page too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, what I'm going to do here for sharing, I think when this is done, I'm going to probably cut. I could keep this as a poster version, but I can also cut them out and tape them into a book, and then I'll probably share it like that because that's pocket sized, and those are fun to print out and fun for people to read. And that's why I do all my templates often as mini comics formats, especially the one sheet mini, because it focuses us. I mean, if we set out to do a 40-page graphic novel and we gave ourselves 3 minutes per page, that would get kind of stressful towards the end. But because it's only 8 pages, I find my attention is kind of stimulated by the short story, but it's enough to really sink my teeth into. I'm mixing metaphors, I think. And then if you get to the end and this has a sense, like you pointed out, Michael, I kind of ran out of time. That's why it's a blank page there, but it kind of works as a blank page. And that's almost an invitation to say, what happens next? And this could be at C number 1 and number 2 could be the next step in the journey. And you may end up, that's literally how I started doing my Freeman Colby books. Is I started these as 8-page minis, and I just kept coming back to it and drawing. And after 4 years, I had a 360-page graphic novel. And it just takes that daily approach of what's a little piece I can do each day. And if it gets tricky and hard, I just ask, maybe I could do this with less. Maybe I could open this up in some way. And
What, Marek, what I
it
love
does.
about it ending that way is it almost reassures every artist in this room that facing the blank page doesn't have to be the end. You
Mhm.
know, that frees up, that feeling of stuckness can be a beginning instead of, a trauma.
Mhm.
That's why
Yeah.
I love that ending.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And to me, it kind of hints at the bigger story. I'll show you the bigger story actually. Um, because before Rabbit took this walk, Rabbit was staring at a blank page, wondering what to draw, and went looking for ideas, and then felt even worse because could found too many ideas and couldn't decide on what to draw. And then it was just that breakthrough of saying, you know what? I don't need to go someplace special. I just need to pay attention to where I am right now. And I'll show you the sketch behind it. So I was at the ocean, off-season ocean gets kind of cold pretty quickly in Maine. And I brought my wide sketchbook. And here's the sketch that I made from as this story was happening. Um, and I wasn't thinking it would be a mini comic, but I was walking. There were so many beautiful things. I couldn't decide. And I came back just to the porch, this big empty off-season porch over the ocean. And I started drawing it. And
Oh, nice.
as I drew, family and friends kind of came in and out, sat in the chairs. There's a lot of empty chairs, but people are kind of coming and going. And I realized, oh my gosh, I don't need to go find someplace out on the point or at the beach or something. I just need to sit here and pay attention. And what really sealed it for me was trying to get everybody, as we talked for, I don't know how long we were sitting here. And just as I was finishing up, a flock of geese starting to head south came right over the beach, turned and went right over the house. And it was like a punctuation mark on that whole process of that's where I needed to be right then at that moment, to see those lines crossing over each other. So I guess
Well,
now.
I love the way that you capture the details that matter.
Mhm.
Listen, we have just a couple of questions in chat I want to read out before we lose them in the scroll, and then we should start sharing.
Great.
So Randy asked, do you do the comics first by hand and then copy them into a digital format to publish?
Yeah, what I'll do next, Randy, is when I get this into a finished format, this is where the erasing is important to clean them up. Then I usually scan them, just a simple black and white scan or grayscale scan. I boost the contrast so it's pure black and white and it'll print like an old fashioned photocopy. And then I can print it at black and white, or if I want to do color, I'll print it out and color it by hand with my crayons or something. Um, and then I'll have both versions. I'll have the black and white version and a color version, if that makes sense. Um, and that's how I do all
Yes.
my comics. For me, if I start drawing on the computer, I instantly have too many options. And if I have just paper and pencil in front of me, I that cuts down all the options. I mean, it's you can see I'm into templates for that same reason. Strip away all the options and get to the heart of the story. And paper and pencil somehow, or pen, help me do that.
Interesting. One more question and then we'll go to shares. Judith asks, how pre-planned is your script and thumbnails when you do daily pages? Do you know what's coming?
No, that's essential for the process. Good question. Because a lot of people, like I started to say earlier, people kind of assume that as an artist, you get an idea and then you figure out how it works, and then you sit down and you draw and it works like your idea. People like to think artists know what they're doing. And I found that stresses me out to feel like I need to know what I'm doing. And I think that's why I started using templates for this, because the template shows me, I know there's a beginning, middle, end, or whatever the shape of the template is. I know it's a finite process and I can just relax and I don't have to plan that out, because at each stage I want to be partly improvising and partly channeled. And the template says, okay, this is the beginning
Mm.
stage. And in that beginning stage, I didn't know what yes, I knew it was autobio. So I knew I was walking by the sea with my sketchbook, but I wasn't sure how to capture that or how to get it on the page. So this is an improvised experiment. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, I could wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I don't like that at all, and just patch over it and fix it. But for now, that's what it looks like, if that makes sense. And I as much as possible, I avoid scripting and thumbnailing, because the more I do that, it's like if I got up every day and had to type up everything I was going to say that day. And then I just went through the day finding my lines and reading them. You know, I couldn't live like that. And I can't make my comics like that either. But I should also say, when I'm doing historical comics, like I started off showing you, every word in this book comes out of that diary. So in a way, I'm
Mm,
working from primary source texts, and those are my scripts. And from there, I can improvise. So I set up a page, I set up the panels, and then I have this source text that directs the story. But my
right.
job is to figure out, wow, what's going to work on that page to move the reader from one place to another, and move them, get them to a place where they can either turn the page or read a full story. But I want as much improvisation and discovery in that process as possible.
That's what keeps it alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Interesting. All right, let's go to shares because it's getting a
All right.
little.
I want to see what you guys are making. Yeah.
So, oh, I see a lot of hands raised already. I see Jen first. Let's start with Jen. Oh, wait, ask to unmute. Spot.
Myself. Okay, here we go. I did not think I would be first. Wow. Okay, so I cheated and I used a mini comic that I had already made in another workshop. But you know, that's also what made me feel okay about using ink and just going for it. So just a little cover about all the things you can find in a window.
Hmm.
And then we have how to find a cat. And here I am swiping left on a lot of cats. Tell yourself that you're not really looking for a cat right now. 2, join cat adoption sites and swipe left on a lot of cats, all of them. It's good that you didn't have us do the book because I managed to not do my book right. Okay. 3, keeping in mind that you're not ready for a cat, keep swiping until dun, 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 blue eyes, white body, raccoon tail. This is supposed to be the hand of the guy holding the cat, but I didn't quite get it right, but that's okay. Could it be a Lynx Point Siamese kitten? And they're giving her away? Bet you know what's gonna happen next. This is where my book goes wrong. Okay, find a friend to drive all the way to Vancouver, Washington with you. Stop for shakes, get stuck in traffic. Pick up kitten, snuggle her all the way home. Oh. Then there is a last page somewhere. Oh yeah, there you go. Congrats. You have a kitten. Your life will never be the same. And I was trying to show all of the little toys that she picks up and grabs and then leaves all over the hallway. But I don't know if that came through.
Oh.
That's it. And then
Oh,
it's in a little book.
Oh, I love the idea of using the journey as a how-to, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Showing somebody the journey you went on and instructing them on the steps of it, and so they can follow it.
Yeah, thanks.
thanks for sharing, Jen. I see Marlene next.
I'm also glad we didn't try to make books together and wrestle with those in this short time.
Hi, Marlene. Oh, I forgot to ask you to uh, unmute. Okay, hang on. That's to unmute. No, spotlight. Did I just spotlight myself? Did I freeze?
while Michael's doing that, I'm putting my templates page in the chat where I've posted some of my templates. So if you want to check those out, and the template that I'm working on after today's school visit, I'll post there soon too.
Marlene, I froze and lost you. Could you raise your hand again? I forgot to ask to unmute first. So in the meantime, we'll go to Jeannie, who's a complete stranger that I've never met before.
Who's Michael? All right. Okay, so thank you so much, Marek. This was really great and is helping me in a stuck place. And anyway, so let's not do the let's do the title first, which I didn't do first, but this is Growing Pains, and that's me, stretching up, I guess, growing. Anyway, and this is inside, and I'm walking next to some trees, and here's some birds, chirp, chirp, tweet, tweet. And then I stop and I say, wait a minute. And then, when did the birds stop making sense? And here's a bird screaming at me, trying to get my attention to tell me something. And then I realized, oh no, it's me. I've lost the ability to understand the birds. So yeah, when I was 5 years old, it's actually true. I was walking and I had this sensation that I used to know how to listen to the birds, but I guess I lost it because I got too old.
Oh,
Oh, I hope that continues, Jeannie. I feel like that's just the beginning of a big story.
Thank you.
yeah. That kind of put my heart in knots, Jeannie.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think, when we're babies and whatever, it's like, we're just kind of open. And then as we grow older and older, we kind of close up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
making.
I hope I don't bring people down.
No, making your comics has opened me up to listening to the birds differently. So I think you're opening us up.
Oh, good.
Thank you for sharing, Jeannie.
Yes.
I see Judith next.
Hi. Okay. So this is it's a little book. It's called Getting Back to Work and Making a Little Book. Getting back to work means that there was a huge project, a big graphic memoir, and I got a little sidetracked by making a little zine about the war that's going on in my neighborhood. So Hyena, my teacher, she encouraged me. I said, I'm so distracted. She said, you got to do the war. So I did that, but now I have to get back to work again. So this is Getting Back to Work and Making a Little Book. And I figured out how to do this. Hold on. Whoops. You have to start painting again and drawing, doing collage. And then organizing a lifetime of art. Just do it. These are references to all the classes. One of the sawdust prompts was to take Post-it notes and give yourself a what do you call it? Like give yourself a rule, a job. And mine was just do it. And I put it on every single mirror in my house where my face is. Just do it, right? Getting back to work. And then it says, and I have a whole book or zine, voila. Then, because I was frustrated that I started off with the wrong format, it says next time start with correct. Thank you. This was great.
Thank you for making an imperfect book. It's inspiring to see.
Right, I know. Well, I've been drawing my whole life and the drawings are always perfect. So this thing of showing these kind of scribbles is, I don't know, it's like a whole challenge in itself.
Yeah, good for you.
Thanks for sharing that. I see Laura, then Randy, then Alan.
Hey.
Hi, Laura.
This is called The Beginning of a Long and Beautiful Friendship. And September 1979, Nancy and I met at college. She told me she was from Peabody, Mass, which sounded like Peabody when she said it. We were full of hopes and dreams, and I was going to be a molecular biology and biophysics major. But mean Professor Crabtree cured me of that conviction. He also cured other people. It wasn't just me. So I made the life-changing decision to take a graphic design class where I met my husband. And now Nancy and I are collaborating on a graphic memoir. It is about her 7-year relationship with a sociopathic liar. And we're in year 3 of probably a 7-year project. So stay tuned.
Wow.
Thanks. This was super fun.
Oh, you got a little promo mini done too. That's great.
Yeah.
Now I know about the project. Cool.
Thanks for sharing that, Laura. I see Randy next.
So I just went with this character. I have like 7 books filled with this character who's a pencil. Don't ask me why. But the title is Watch Where You're Drawing. And this is my little 3-legged dog, Juju.
Oh,
So the pencil's deciding what to draw, and Juju's like, draw me, draw me. So he says, draw me going for a walk. And then he starts to draw him, but gets away. He says, hey, wait up. No, time to go. And Juju's like running out of the page, going for a walk. Juju, stop. And then he doesn't see that pencil's tripping. And Juju says, gotta go. Then at the end, pencil stops and Juju stops. He says, back to the drawing board.
Hmm.
And just a little sequence, but fun to just think of, let each little drawing, I didn't know where it was going to go, but just see where it wants to go and sort of let it just be simple. So thank you. This was fun.
Oh, thanks, Randy. That's a great visual pun. It's the pencil's drawing at the start, but the dog is drawing the pencil along in
Yeah.
a different sense of drawing. And what
Yeah,
you're
I
describing
thought
is
it might
you
be
were
fun to
drawing.
develop it a little more too. It just kind of came to me when you were doing that. So yeah, fun, like the drawing takes on a life of its own. And of course, Juju would want me to go take him for a walk instead of draw. So
Yeah.
thank you.
thanks for sharing, Arlene. Randy, let's go back to Marlene, whose screen froze, and then we'll go to Alan.
I'm surprised a lot of people have the book form. I see.
Does that not work?
See why it was confusing.
Try again. It's not letting me spotlight you. Why?
I see goatee now.
Yeah, that's okay. Then we're good. Can you unmute, Marlene?
If you can't, if you want to hold your book up, I can try reading it back to you. That's what I do when we do this in school. When we're in the same room, I'll say, we'll put something up on the screen or hold it up to the group. And if someone can read it back to you and tell you the story, it's ready to share.
I can't tell if Marlene froze or I froze.
I can see it. Okay, I can give it a try. Return of Scraggly Bertha to St. Mary's, 1970. Is on the cover. Yeah, Marlene's freezing a little bit. I'm not seeing the next page yet.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Maybe we can circle back to you in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll circle back. Okay.
Not a great connection.
Let's go to Alan.
It's a great title. I love the title, Marlene.
Oddly enough, when you were saying you couldn't see the next page, I could, so that's strange. I could actually see her next page, but anyway, I guess hopefully it'll work for her later. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Anyway, I did mine online, so I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, I can't share my screen. Is there a way to enable?
You can share it now.
Ah, there we go. Okay. So I don't know, kind of an awkward title. I wasn't sure what to title it, so 700 miles, 7,000 BC in 24 hours. Not a terribly interesting story, admittedly. I couldn't think of any good journey stories, so I figured I'd at least try doing something somewhat self-referential, a journey about comics, as you'll see. So again, no big twists or anything interesting in the story, but oh well. I participated in 24-hour Comics Day every year since 2006. Wow, that text is off center in the panel. I'm sorry. In earlier years, there have always been local comic shops hosting the event, and it's fun to work around other people. Last year, nobody was hosting it in my state, so I decided to fly to the closest location, Albuquerque. I looked up bus routes to get from the airport to the library where the event was hosted. That's supposed to be kind of the bus map. It doesn't look like anything, but oh well. But I mentioned to the host, Jeff Benham of 7000 BC Comics, that I was coming from LA, and he was kind enough to arrange a ride from the airport for me. The event itself was well run. I had fun and once again completed a 24-hour comic. The comic is now online at d24comic.com/night, but I hadn't planned well for afterward. My flight back was in the early morning and I had no place to stay for the night. I thought maybe I could sleep in the airport. I could not. Still, if there's no closer place hosting this year, and it looks likely there won't be, I'll probably be flying to Albuquerque again. But yeah, I think this time maybe I'll splurge for a hotel room. So there we go. There's my comic. Again, no big twists or anything in the story, but oh.
No, but that's a good to be continued ending because now I want to see the next one. Yeah, that's great. When you're doing a 24-hour comic, you're right. You don't need a hotel room. You're just going to be drawing comics the whole time.
Thanks for sharing, Ellen. I see Kathy, then Rebecca, then Sin.
Hi. Thanks so much. And greetings from South Portland, Maine. That was definitely a beach scene.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I went with the less. Less. So, and I also don't have a book. So here we are. First one's recovery. And then it says George with dates. Me walking with Ghost George. This is me in a fetal position. These would be antidepressants. Sun comes back out. Tried to get her little tongue kissing me, but I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
And this is Harriet.
Oh, I love the way the heart embraces them both at the end.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for making me cry when I'm guest hosting, Kathy. I appreciate that. If you don't
I
know,
love it, Mike.
our dogs died a week apart.
Yeah,
So
a year ago,
with this,
right?
yeah, almost a year ago.
This time this year, yeah.
Had this parallel mourning period. That was beautiful, Kathy. You see
Thanks.
Rebecca, then Sin, then Doc.
I love how all these stories help bring us back to the present moment. And like you were saying before we started, Michael, right here and now, this is when it happens. And
Yeah.
that makes me think that.
Hello.
Hi.
The journey thing was good because I didn't know what this was going to be and what I would do, but I made a tiny book. So this is a snippet of our holiday in Wales this year. So this is the Blue Lagoon at Aberady. And I'll just read it. It's really, really brief. Ben spent the day looking for fossils.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I can't read it, it's backwards. We passed cows and we walked the hill. Sorry. We scrambled down the other side. Ben swam in the frigid water and jumped off the rock. That's it. Thanks.
Wow.
Oh, that's beautiful, Rebecca.
Thank you.
That's making me think of next week's about the Chinese poetry.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, and it looks like those landscape scroll paintings.
Oh, thank you.
Landscape, where it feels like you could put all the boxes together and it would be one panoramic landscape.
Yeah, I mean, the page turns are great, aren't they? Because if you're approaching the edge of the page, then you turn it and you're at the top of the hill. So I like that.
Oh, you were using that. Good. That wasn't
Yeah.
accidental. Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love how simple the story is, but it's so rich in mood and mark making. Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
I see Sin, then Doc, then Paula, then Nikki.
Hi. So I did My Holiday, Lost in the Peak District. So here's me going to the airport in the plane. Walking through all sorts of heather and ferns. It was knee high. It was sunny the whole time. It was lovely. And then I saw a cave. And to be continued.
Yeah. I feel like you climbed right through the page into that page there.
That's
Thank-
beautiful.
That's fun, Sin. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
I love the face on the sun.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. See Doc next.
All right. Well, let's see. The title here is
Like I broke through a wall too.
there we go. Paw
Can't
Prints of a Family. And when you said that you made yourself into an animal, I asked my wife real quick, what animal should I be? And she said a golden retriever. So that was my best attempt. And then I said, well, what animal are you? And it was a cat. So here's me with the paw prints over here, noticing her and our story. The paw prints continuing to go over. Then paw prints traveling over, and here she is with child. And there's our little girl. And then the paw prints get more because now there's more of us. And then we're all looking up at the stork that came in. And for our son, we adopted him, and so this is how he came in, and then there we are as a family at the end. So there you have it.
It's great. I love how it gets messier and messier with more and more paw prints, but easy
Right.
to read still. That's great.
That's very sweet.
It's such a great way to meet people too, is you ask them, what animal are you?
Right. That was a strange question. I thought, how is she going to answer this?
All right, we've got
you.
Paula, Nikki, Rebecca Hunter, and then we'll try Marlene again at the end. Hi, Paula.
This is sorry, that was I'm not very good at doing this, sorry.
Familiar stuff because I
No,
didn't
it's
think
good.
we would be able to
I'm
get
really sorry
everything
about
we needed
this.
tonight if I didn't.
Okay. There's no writing or anything, it's just pictures really. Me with a ball. My head bouncing around everywhere. My head's still bouncing. Me in the hedge. Me pulling my mouth with the song and the stairs.
Whoa.
There's something a bit different.
Wow.
Can I ask something? Is anybody on Instagram?
Wait, say that again, Paula?
Is anyone on Instagram?
Yeah, I think a lot of people here are also on Instagram. You should check out the Saw site at Mighty Network.
Oh, thank you. Thank
That's
you,
a great way to
everyone.
find out how to follow other people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great faces, Paula. I love that.
Thank
That
you
was
for
fun.
sharing. Next up, we have Nikki, Jungle Jane.
Jungle Jane, hello. Let me back screen. Yes, get rid of chat. Yes. A little bit of backstory. I was just going to listen because I thought, well, this is really cool. And then I just happened to be eating some smoked salmon And that made me think of bears in Canada and Alaska, which made me think of Libby and Andrew, who I draw jam with, and other things. So here we go. Here it is. Jungle Jane's Great Canadian Adventure by junglejane.comics, which is my Instagram handle. Andrew, Libby, I'm here. And they're going, yippee! Welcome to Canada. And I'm from New Zealand, so it's got the New Zealand flag and the black fern, or the silver fern. Oh man, great to see you. What do you want to do first? Libby, I had to message Libby. I said, what's your hair like today? She said she had kind of beard hair. It was kind of messy. So I've given her kind of beard hair.
What, you did research in 3 minutes per page? You even researched their hairstyle?
Yeah, I was doing quick messaging in the chat. And then, oh, sorry. Yeah. So they say, what do you want to do first? And I go, bears and coffee. Let's make comics. My shirt says, I love Saw. Of course I do. Who wouldn't? And then, because I'm neurodiverse, so many options kind of did my head in. And so then Libby takes over. Ha ha ha! How about a cup of tea? And then Andrew very diplomatically says, then we can go and see the bears. And I go, that'd be great. And so that's my final page where I'm going, awesome.
I love the body language of that bear. It's so simple, but you caught the action and the look of the character of the animal.
Thank you so much. That was great. So I'll tidy that up and then I'll post it on our Dropbox. I want to play with the light box I bought, so
yeah,
give it a bit of a tidy up. Thank you very much. That was really interesting.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to put that. Thanks for reminding me. I'm putting that link if you want to be in the group PDF. I just put that link into the chat. And Nikki, that was so joyful. Thank you for sharing that.
I like the messy parts where it feels like I'm watching you draw it on the page because the ink is all over the
Yeah,
place.
cool.
I like that so many options panel. You heard me cackle because I know that feeling of excitement and overwhelm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing that, Nikki. Okay, Rebecca's up next.
Hello.
Hi, Rebecca.
I didn't have a book, so I used the page method. So this is the family vacation in Japan, and that's me and my husband and my son. So my pen was a little thick for this size, but anyway. At the onsen in Onomichi, my husband and son went into one bath and I went into another. So there's them and this is me. And then there's a stranger talking to me in Japanese and I have no idea what she's saying. Then we all ate lunch together. I had udon soup and tempura. The next day, our travel group split up. My husband and I went to Hakone and my son went to Tokyo all by himself. So there he is on the train going whoosh because it's a bullet train. We enjoyed Hakone, but I was always a little worried about our son on his own in such a big city. So my husband's all lovey-dovey and I'm like half lovey-dovey and half worried. 2 days later, we were supposed to meet at Ueno Station at 11 a.m. So there's us. He was right on time. He survived 48 hours alone in Tokyo. And there he is. And then I decided to use the last page as a glossary. So onsen is a glorious, steamy, hot public bath. Udon is scrumptious, thick wheat noodles. And tempura is battered and deep fried vegetables and seafood. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Rebecca. I love seeing family stories in comics because that then becomes a comic that other generations will want to read.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And all these different flavors of stories are blowing my mind as usual. Thanks for sharing that, Rebecca. We got Hunter and then Marlene.
Okay, hi. So I got here half an hour late and I didn't get the autobiographical thing. So I was like, cool, we're putting characters in situations. So I used some characters of mine that already existed. And it kind of is autobiographical because they're characters that I used for like a final project for the animation program I was in. So I have my title page here. It's titled Soul Bean. And it's my little cat character. And so we have,
Ooh.
it says canned beans, and he says, why am I in this grocery store? Why is there an entire aisle of beans?
Nice for
And
that.
at the end of the aisle, there's a lady at the stand, and she says, free samples. So he walks up, he says, try a free sample, good for the soul. And then our cat character goes, oh, I'm allergic to beans. And the last page, the dog character says, then you have no soul. And it's to be continued.
Oh, I love that face at the end. That's
Oh
great.
man.
And that perspective of the aisle of shelves brushing past me, it just pushes me, somehow it pushes me into the next page, because I'm like turning my head to see the space and I want to see where it goes. And when you turn the page, yeah, it's like I turned my head to look down the aisle. That's great. So that feels like animation. You said you do animation?
Oh, Hunter remuted.
Yeah,
And
that
I
feels
don't know
like
how to get
animation.
it
That's a
back.
cool trick.
But I will say this. Are you serious? You came in the middle of this thing and you somehow grokked onto that's amazing. That was really fun. All right, now we're gonna give Marlene one more shot and see if the gremlins let it happen. We can see you, Marlene. But you can't unmute. Do you want to read the text again, Marek?
I can try, yeah. If you hold it
All right.
still a little closer. We had the return of Scraggly Bertha to St. Mary's 1970. Cover artwork, maybe TBD. And now it does look like it's frozen for me again, Marlene.
Yeah.
But maybe this is a good place, Michael, to mention posting with the tag.
Yeah, let's see if I can find, well, I know it's at Comics Workshop on Instagram or hashtag Friday Night Comics. And then your other option is you can upload your page to this Dropbox link I'm putting into chat, and we'll put it into the group PDF. Yeah, sorry, Marlene.
Yeah.
Tried. And then I'm also going to put Marek's info into the chat so you can follow Marek. And then I just want to thank you, Marek, for an amazing workshop. I'm going to let everybody unmute themselves just to shout out props to Marek for a great Friday night workshop.
Props to Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Lots of
everybody.
fun.
We'll
Fabulous.
see you out on the internet. Keep in touch. I'd love to
Thank
see
you
what
so much. This was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to
Any
meet you.
closing thoughts, Marek?
Yeah, keep in touch. I'd love to see what you made, and I will post mine. I put my Patreon in the chat there, so I'll post mine too. And let's keep sharing. Good job.
Marek, where are you located?
I'm in Henniker, New Hampshire, USA.
Okay,
So northeast New England.
northeast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can contact me through my website. Drop me a line. I'd love to hear what you're making.
Thanks for coming, everybody. See you around SAW.
Thanks,
A great
everybody.
weekend.
It was great.
Thank
Saw.
you.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.